I was far too young for the adults around me to enable me to make decisions governing my body that would affect the entire course of my physical, psychological, and reproductive development. What children like me need isn't the removal of their body parts or the halting of their natural development or psychological manipulation by adults. They need compassionate, holistic care. As adults, we need to ground children in reality and guide them towards building their identities in a healthy manner. We need to act now because our youth need us more than ever. This is not a matter of left or right. It is a matter of right and wrong.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to talk about this latest story about doctors coming together to defend children, to protect them from going down the route of gender-affirming care. Doctors who are standing up for the protection of children, protecting them from gender ideology, protecting them from making decisions that they can't even consent to. It's good to see doctors taking the oath that they made seriously, which is to do no harm. Unfortunately, we're seeing doctors move away from that and are basically turning into quacks and promoting gender ideology and pushing it on children. But it's good to see doctors who have integrity, who haven't gone along with this and are not afraid to speak out. So we had the CAS report in the UK, which basically confirmed what a lot of us have been saying for the longest time, that kids can't consent to having puberty blockers and, even surgery, because believe it or not, there are minors who have had such surgery. The CAS report said we have to look into other methods of ensuring that kids who are gender confused are given the support they need.
Let's talk about Hilary Cass, who's the most important person here. Well, most important person who's actually trying to do something to look after children, in my view. She's a paediatrician. She's the former president of the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health. She's carried out a 4-year review into the services provided for children who believe they are trans in NHS England. It doesn't apply to NHS Scotland, sadly, but she's basically said that the evidence for the treatment of children is weak. It's based on shaky foundations. There is no good evidence for long-term outcomes for the puberty blockers and other treatments. She's called for an end to all puberty-blocking hormone drugs to be given to under 18s. She wants even a more therapeutic, holistic approach to those aged 17 to 25, which is when brain development is still happening. A full pause in any treatment for 16 and 17-year-old new patients. She says there's also no clear evidence that social transitioning, we know that's happening at schools a lot, where teachers are saying, yes, you can be referred to by your preferred pronouns, you can change your gender at school, and you can change your name, even without parents knowing about it. That's against government guidance, but they still allow it. She says there's no clear evidence that social transitioning has positive impact or negative impact on this.
Young people go through a phase where they're confused about their gender. Before it was bigotry to say that, but now they're admitting to it. That in many cases it's simply a phase. But what has happened now is we're encouraging young people to go down this path that is very destructive. And we wonder why the state of mental health is so bad. And there is a social contagion factor as well that nobody wants to address.
My name is Chloe Cole. I'm 18 and my story is not hyperbole. Starting around the age of 12, I began to believe that I was transgender. This belief was not organic. All the media I consumed as a kid showed me how stupid and vulnerable being a girl was. All the sexualized images of women gave me an unrealistic expectation of womanhood. I spent a lot of time online and quickly saw all the praise coming out of trans God on Instagram and other social media. I was a bit awkward in school and had some trouble making friends. Like many dysphoric children, I also suffer from a variety of mental health conditions, so I easily fell prey to the narrative that if I felt different and did not want to be a highly sexualized girl, I must be a boy. I obsessed over becoming a boy. I believed that all my insecurities and anxiety would magically disappear once I transitioned. The mental health professionals did not try to dissuade me of this delusional belief. I was fast-tracked into medical transition after I was diagnosed with dysphoria. In California, a child can pick their gender identity and a care provider questioning that would be considered conversion therapy. This wasn't a misdiagnosis. It was mistreatment. My parents were told that the options were transition or suicide. They complied because they were not offered any other treatment solution for my distress. My distraught parents wanted me alive, so they listened to my doctors. I was placed on puberty blockers and testosterone after expressing my gender dysphoria to my therapist, and I was approved for a double mastectomy all by the age of 15.
our tax money is going towards harming children, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to this so-called gender-affirming care, that they still know very little about, by the way. It's one big experiment that they're drawing young people into. So a coalition of pediatricians, health policy groups, and conservative organisations is calling on medical professionals to stop promoting transgender medical treatments for children. The American College of Pediatricians and allied groups styling themselves as Doctors Protecting Children have published a declaration urging mainstream American medical associations like the American Academy of Pediatricians to abandon support for so-called gender-affirming care for transgender youths.
And we have serious concerns about the physical and mental health effects of the current protocols promoted for the care of children and adolescents in the United States who express discomfort with their biological sex. This declaration was authored by the American College of Pediatricians, but really it was developed from the expertise of hundreds of doctors, researchers, and other healthcare workers and leaders who, for years, have been sounding the alarm on the harmful protocols that continue to be promoted by the medical organizations in the United States. Despite recent revelations from the leaked WPATH files and the recent release of the final report from the CAS review, these medical organizations have not changed course.
That's the thing. Why has the CAS report not woken them up? Why are they still determined to go down this path here in the US? Shouldn't they learn from their colleagues? Their colleagues over in the UK have basically admitted that it's the wrong path to send a young person down.
We're calling on these medical organizations of the United States, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Endocrine Society, the Pediatric Endocrine Society, the American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association, and the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry to follow the science and their European colleagues and immediately stop the promotion of social affirmation, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries for children and adolescents who experience distress over their biological sex.
The science should apply to people in similar circumstances, whatever country they're in. So if this is what European doctors have concluded, why are the American doctors and the American, medical associations ignoring it? Surely if they want to follow the science, they should be looking at this data and thinking, okay, we're going to have to pay attention here because our European colleagues are a step ahead and this is what they've found. Why has this not been discussed here in the US? It's like America is determined to hang on to this horrible gender ideology cult. Absolutely determined. And I think it's all political. And unfortunately, the children who they end up involving in all of this, they're collateral damage. It's all political. It's all for control. It's all for power. In my opinion, it's really making this country unstable when we're talking about bringing gender ideology into our military, when we're talking about bringing it into our healthcare system, into our schools.
In our declaration, we affirm that sex is a dimorphic, innate trait defined in relation to an organism's biological role in reproduction, male and female. This genetic signature is present in every nucleated somatic cell in the body and is not altered by drugs or surgical interventions. Consideration of these innate differences is critical to the practice of good medicine and to the development of sound policy for children and adults alike. Medical decision-making should be based upon an individual's biological sex. It should respect biological reality and the dignity of the person by compassionately addressing the whole person. We are here defying the claims made by these medical organizations in the US that those of us who are concerned are a minority and that their protocols are consensus. They are not consensus, and we are speaking in a loud, unified voice, enough.
So to me, that's a call for doctors to get back to reality. Stop lying to children and telling them that they're in the wrong bodies and that you can change their sex for them. No doctor can do that. So it's good to see doctors standing up for what is right, doctors standing up for the protection of young people. So affirming that sex is a biological characteristic and that medical decisions should not be based on an individual's thoughts and feelings. Absolutely. You know, if a child says they feel like a girl, it doesn't mean that we have to run with it. Just like they feel like they can fly, we don't have to run with that and allow them to jump out of a window. Not everything a person feels has to be affirmed, has to become the reality, when it is anything but reality. And the people who should be the most rational, the most scientific-based people are doctors, obviously. And they can be the worst. These doctors are saying that the current practices are harmful. They don't help the kids. They only do harm to the kids. And you can imagine being pumped with all this medication, the long-term effects of which are still unknown. Medication that they're going to have to be on for the rest of their lives. 15-year-olds have had mastectomies. 17-year-olds, young people, are actually having their body parts, their healthy body parts, cut off, all in the name of changing their gender, which is impossible to do. And what are we supposed to say to the young people who turn around and regret going down that path? What are we supposed to say to those young people? Can they undo what has been done by the puberty blockers? What has been done by the mastectomies? Or even worse, bottom surgery? Can they undo that? And if they've made this decision, so supposedly made this decision at 11 years old, meaning they've decided to go on hormones and puberty blockers at 11 years of age, the chances of them changing their minds are greater. And the adults who should know better decided to put you on medication that would alter your body permanently. Medication that ensured that your sexual organs didn't develop properly. They're even questioning how it affects the brain. Will a person develop intellectually to their full potential when they're on all these medications from a very young age? Detransitioners exist, people who are against gender ideology. We get accused of not wanting trans kids to exist. Well, they're the ones who don't want detransitioners to exist. They deny their existence. When the reality is, there are plenty of kids who, after a few years, regret what has been done to their bodies. They turn around and regret it. And that is more likely to cause unaliving thoughts, that overwhelming feeling of regret, feeling of despair, and feeling so alone while everyone else is just getting on with their lives. They're in a position where their lives will never be the same. So wanting to avoid a young person being put in that position, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Doctors should be at the forefront of looking at alternatives that aren't so drastic. Yes, they're doctors and that's what they're all about, medication and surgeries, but we need to involve other professionals. Refer them to counsellors, refer them to therapists. And when they're 18, they can do what they want. I still think it should be older, but whatever. When you're 18, you're of age, and you can do what you want. But this should not be done to children. They give them the support that they need so they can grow to be comfortable in their own skin. What's so bad about that? But instead, we've gone down this really dark, drastic route of telling the young person, yes, you are in the wrong body, and affirming what is essentially delusional. Telling a boy that he can be a girl, telling a girl that she can be a boy. A lot of the times, young people dealing with gender dysphoria, they've had a lot of other issues to deal with. Some of them have faced SA at the hands of predators in their lives.
I was afraid of growing up into a woman. I had an early, stressful puberty, and I hated the attention that I got from my developing body. I had unresolved sexual trauma from an assault that I felt like I couldn't report because I thought nobody would believe me or take me seriously. And I began to associate my breasts and my femininity with weakness and being taken advantage of. I learned from the internet that all of my problems stemmed from the way that I was born. But I could fix myself by changing my body. None of my doctors at any point explored any of these feelings or told me that I was strong enough to get better, that I could grow out of it. My pain and my naive judgment as a child was allowed to dictate the rest of my life. Today, I experience joint, back, and pelvic pains. I have issues with atrophy, with my sexual dysfunction and pain, and the testosterone may have made me infertile. The loss of my sexual development and of my breasts has marked the loss of a major part of my sexuality and my identity as a now adult woman. I never will have the option of feeding my children with what God gave me. The skin grafts that they created out of my areolas have become open wounds, and I have to bandage myself every single day. The damage done to my developing body was all thanks to the negligent standards of care written by WPATH. But there is no acknowledgement of those of us who detransition. I received absolutely no guidance on how to stop transitioning, and now I don't know what the future of my health will look like in a few years or over the next few decades of my life. Only time will tell.
We've heard girls talk about how they decided that they wanted to be a boy because they thought if they were a boy, certain predators in their lives would no longer be interested in them, would no longer pursue them. If they erased all of their femininity, all of their beauty, then that could be like a barrier of protection. So if they have that support and given the means to move on with their lives, if they have all of that, they may find that they no longer think they're in the wrong body. They no longer want to be a boy when they know they're a girl. They may come through the other side. And it's good if they can come through the other side with their body still intact, not with body parts missing that have been removed as part of this horrible experimental surgeries, procedures, medications. It would be good if they can come through the other side healthy, intact, and able to get on with their lives, accepting themselves for who they are.
We were founded in 2002 by a group of physicians concerned that national pediatric policy was increasingly being dictated by social agendas rather than by science, medical ethics, and the needs of children. The American College of Pediatricians aligns itself with both science and the ethical principle of first do no harm. We value all children from the moment of their conception forward, recognize parents as the primary nurturers and educators of their children, and recommend interventions that will lead to children's optimal health.
So it's good to see these doctors coming forward and saying enough of this, enough of experimenting with our children. There isn't enough research, there isn't enough data to determine that this is the right thing to do. And what we do know is that once these procedures have been done, they're irreversible. And an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, 17-year-old, they cannot consent. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, like and subscribe, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.